Okay, here we go into an episode of On Point EDC. Today I have a really cool little comparison for you from the brand Victorinox. A little about them: they were founded back in 1884. They are Swiss made in origin, and they are the makers of the original Swiss Army knife. They do have 5 product categories to include Swiss Army knives, household and professional knives, wristwatches, travel gear, and even fragrances. Now, in terms of the type of product we're checking out today, it's going to be in the category of an everyday carry knife. So some key common characteristics and when you're looking for something that you can, kind of keep with you every single day and carry. Of course, you're going to want something that's a pocketable folding knife that really best suits your daily needs as the carrier. Now, we're going to be looking at comparing 2 very similar models, one brand new, the Onefold Alox model, as well as the Swiss Army one, which I've also featured on the channel previously. This Onefold Alox, I think, is a really, really refreshing take and update on this very, very classic recipe. So with all that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, now before we dive in, quick customary wristwatch check. I'm sure some of you are thinking I gotta be wearing a Victorinox watch. I'm actually not. I am wearing this little beast right here, and it is a Vulcain Nautique Skin Diver. This is a boutique special edition known as the Streamliner, if I recall correctly, and it actually does have a few parallels with this particular update in terms of the Onefold Alox, because it takes something very classic, quite simplistic in general, and it updates it with modern feature sets. Similarly here, you're going to have something that has, again, very classic silhouette, but modern feature sets. Things like sapphire, things like a ceramic insert, like a toolless micro adjusting clasp there. So with that, you're taking something that is, again, quite simple, classic. I mean, this is a time only watch. It doesn't even have a date on it, and it updates it, right? And that's kind of what you're having here. You're taking something like the Swiss Army one, very simple little pocketable slip joint knife. Very simple, again, non-locking slip joint, no pocket clips, nothing to even, this just is gonna, you put this in your pocket and it sits at the bottom of your pocket. Well, here you go. Now it's not sitting in the bottom of your pocket because now you have a beautiful deep carry pocket clip. So for tip down carry, which is going to be one of the safer carries. I'm more of a tip up person myself, but for something that's slow actuating like this is definitely still a 2-hand open. And then now, instead of it, you're probably noticing what this little guy is right here. And you're even seeing some directions press. Well, what does that do? It's a liner lock. So now this is actually a locking blade, which is way more confidence inspiring for actual use versus here. Of course, if you were to, let's say, push it the wrong way and you weren't being very deliberate with a cut, you could technically accidentally close it on yourself. This doesn't even have walk and talk like you would get from a traditional slip joint. So this is, again, probably a lot less safe, but you wouldn't be using something with a tip like this for piercing to where you could potentially fold it down right onto your hand. That is not where you want that to be. This is going to be more deliberate in terms of the types of push cuts and whatnot there that you would use this for. But again, it's a very simple setup, and a lot of people kind of, live by this type of stuff in terms of safety with blades and whatnot. Some people prefer to have you be very, very deliberate. Here, you're going to get something that is built to be a little bit more modern, more robust, even down to these beautiful scales. They are pocketed, you can see here, and skeletonized. You still get that classic Alox grip here, but instead of having it all the way around, you know what? I do like this little red inset. I wish they would have done that there. I think the iconography would have been quite nice, but I understand this level of a more modern look with the more monochromatic tones. So I dig that, and check that out. Yeah, I don't have to worry about this closing on my fingers. All I got to do is slide that over and then go. So boom. So very, very cool. And again, it's quite simple in terms of really all that it's done. There's not much else to explain. So let's talk about some of these details. $56 for the new one, which isn't super expensive in the world of knives, but it's a lot more expensive than $28 for this classic right here. In terms of the blade length, still going to be very similar at around 2.75 inches. So 2 3/4 inches. I'd say the cutting edge though is probably closer to 2.5, because as you can see here, some of the length isn't actually a sharpened edge. So you do have a nice shape there, very utilitarian again, and very much not scary if you were to use this in public in an area, or at a kid's birthday party, you need to cut a balloon string or something. Pulling this out isn't going to scare anybody. Versus I do have some knives that do resemble more tactical folders, and they're going to have a certain style that is a bit more aggressive by comparison. So that's one of the beauties of something like this. But with that, these have been selling out relatively fast. I was lucky enough to get this on Amazon Prime, but with the holidays happening right now, it's currently sold out. But definitely cycle back and see, or you can check these out anywhere really. It does have that classic 93 millimeter or about 3.7 inch length there while it's closed. And then in terms of the thickness, when we look at it this way, it's about 9.6 millimeters versus here you're gonna be at about 8.7. So you're getting a little bit of thickness because of, again, that additional liner. You still have the kind of that spring back there that you have here as well. But again, it's just a little bit thicker. But I will say in hand, that little bit of thickness comes in handy. So you got it. Doesn't feel too thin. It feels quite good. And even the positioning of this loop over deep carry clip, because it is going to be facing downwards versus, I like to typically carry tip up type of knives. This, instead of it being on the other side, right, to where it could be in your hand, we'll close this. Quite nice there. Instead of it being here, let's say open that way and this was reversed, you could potentially develop hotspots a little bit easier. I do like that in this case, it's higher up, at least just ergonomically, even though I do prefer a tip up carry. Even when you see here, I think you got enough protection. If I really wanted to dig in there, I probably could poke my hand though. So with that, it does make sense that this is going to be a tip down carry in terms of safety. I do like this working finish. It's kind of pseudo polished. Like even if I give it a quick little wipe off, it won't ever get like glossy polished. It just, it has a bit of a wash over it, right over the polish. So very, very cool, quite simple. About 1.9 ounces, just under 2 ounces, versus here about 1.6 ounces, just over 1.5 ounces. So these are both really great kind of holiday gift giving ideas. Of course, I carry quite a few others. When we want to think about what a more traditional Swiss Army knife would be, of course, with the Alox scales. This is going to be the Farmer X Alox, so this has a lot in there. Got stuff like this, you got special editions. So I do love a good Swiss Army knife. They're just a lot of fun. And of course, Swiss watches, Swiss Army. It's just something that just goes together. And again, I enjoy it quite a lot. And then something like this, like even this little guy, I enjoy it so much. I have another one. I got one in blue as well. So these are quite, there's something that as a collector you can kind of have and, just have a little bit of fun with there. So, these are quite simple, very, very affordable in the grand scheme of things as well, because pocket knives can be quite expensive, especially when you start getting into stuff that's manufactured in America or even some of the higher end production that's in Asia. So It's definitely fun to be able to have something that you can collect. Again, these for $28, that is pretty awesome that you can have something with quite a true history, with this Swiss Army one. And yeah, it's just that classic slim gentleman's carry folder. And then, of course, it does have those great Alox aluminum scales. Versus here is definitely a modernized slim gentleman's carry folder, of course, with a skeletonized aluminum scales, and then that integrated deep carry pocket clip, which is quite nice. I guess I would call it integrated because it's not modular or anything. It's actually pinned in just like all of these. So this isn't something you can break down. But the nice thing is this high carbon steel is going to be quite good and easy to sharpen from that perspective. And because of that thin blade stock, it's going to be, of course, quite slicey in terms of cutting. Not the most robust, but again, nice and slicey for everyday tasks. So not quite a hard use knife, even though it does have that locking mechanism so that you can use it in, more dedicated cuts, and you can also enjoy it because it's going to be a lot, I would say, more versatile, right? So I appreciate that. So kind of talking about these two in pocket, some of the differences, right? And if we get into some closing thoughts here, well, the Swiss Army one, slim and minimalist, it has very stiff action, two-handed only open. It's a slip joint, non-locking. The design makes for worry-free carry in terms of legality, but also it does limit the practicality to very specific cutting tasks, right? So that's kind of the bench, the bench line here. But we get to this new Onefold Alox, slim and minimalist. It also has very stiff action, also is a two-handed open and close as well. But that locking blade does add confidence and versatility across various cutting tasks. The tip down pocket clip definitely positions nicely and minimizes potential hotspots during prolonged cutting tasks as well. And now you can do prolonged cutting tasks with something like this because you're not going to be fatiguing over being so deliberate with making sure that this doesn't close on your hand. Even as I'm recording this, I'm being deliberately more careful here because this can bite. All right. So with that, there's no half stop here. You don't really need a half stop. And then even when you are closing it, you can see that you're not really in a lot of danger because you only needed to get that far, and then bam. So very, very nice. I mean, these are both great options, but I think this is kind of what you probably tuned in to see is what's all the fuss about. But I think honestly, yeah, about $56. This is one you can't go wrong with. No, it's not going to have the flex appeal of some super robust, knife of the hour. That's the coolest thing at Blade Show or anything like that. But in terms of everyday utility, this really is going to check all the boxes. And I think that's awesome, honestly, like that you can have something that is a great balance of history, great, representative, kind of model that just does it all. And it's not going to be, again, the most robust, but it will be more versatile than the other options here, although it's going to cost a pretty penny, about double, right? So with that said, let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please do a like, and if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.